Right, I said I wouldn't make another video. Doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter anymore. Because a narcissist, a psychopath, a sociopath will never change. I see a lot of Christians making videos saying give up on them, just give up on them. It's mostly Americans, and they're Christians, many of them, and they'll use scripture, and they'll say just give up on them, they'll make you ill. You'll end up with cancer, you'll end up with, there's so many different illnesses that you'll end up with. I said I wasn't going to make another video, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. It really doesn't matter what I say. There are so many men out there who really want a girlfriend, who want to shower them with love. It doesn't matter about gifts. And there are a lot of losers out there. My late mother's friend said there are a lot of them out there when the last one abused me. But this time round, screaming and shouting at me all night long, trying to get some glass to try and hurt himself, gaslighting, manipulating. I ring the paramedics and he screams and shouts at me for doing that. Just like when he shouted at me for going down to A&E 6-7 years ago, when he said that someone had torn up his CAS card. Someone who was nasty to me and not right in the head herself, because she illegally, forcibly injected me just because I said to her, you tore up Darren's CAS card. That was cowardly. And her name was Shani, and she worked for EASTBOURNE crisis team. That's a hangable offence under Nuremberg Treaty. Thanks to John Alexander Patterson telling me that. But I went out of my way for his 50th birthday. I decorated a hotel room. I've done so many nice things for his birthdays and surprised him and given him personalised gifts and been creative and Moonpig and all that, Funky Pigeon and all that. And what do I get? Nothing for my 40th, nothing for my 41st. And yet I was arrested out of the psychiatric unit just a month after I did that for his 50th birthday. PC Harriet said he was a knob. And yet, and a few weeks ago, and you know what, I don't feel bad. No, I don't feel bad that I'm putting this on YouTube. I don't. No, I don't. And thank you, whoever it was who reported that bruise. Because, yes, he should have been arrested. But he knows I'm not going to do it. But I only have to disagree with him on the Bible and I'll be arrested. He did that to me several times, even at the start of our relationship. I never want to hear the name Yahweh or Yahweh or Yeshua HaMashiach, because it's enough to actually turn me into a bloody pagan. I could lose it, but that's not going to happen, because I've always prayed, because I was born with faith. All night long, screaming and shouting at me. And what did it start with? Not allowing me to make a cup of tea. And here's something else I actually told the paralegal. He doesn't want me putting this on YouTube. And he's been such an idiot. He's going to end up a very, very lonely old man. And you know what? If he wants to harm himself with that, he's smashed his own glass window pane in his flat. I tell you what, if I was one of the neighbours hearing all the screaming and shouting in the early hours, I'd be bloody angry. But earlier, I called the police, but I hung up after I rang them. Because I said out loud, why do I want to ring these bastards when they have caused me so much trauma themselves? And the one who arrested Darren, my partner, because someone in America recently reported the YouTube video where I'm showing a bruise on my wrist. The arresting officer was the same one who did what he did to me on Beachy Head when I received news about my father's death. And you know what? If he wants to harm himself and he wants to cut himself up, I'm not going to stop him. I'm not going to cry for him. Because he was trying to break off bits of the glass and look as if he was trying to harm himself. And I kept trying to stop him. This was last night in the early hours. So I called paramedics. And he's screaming and shouting at me because I've gone and done that. Police turn up. Paramedics turn up. None of them do anything. I'm on the phone to the paralegal. This is the paralegal who's taking action against Eastbourne Borough Council because I'm street homeless. Do you know what? It's only when you're close to the very end. It's only when you're close to near the finish line that you're more likely to give up. Because you just for some reason, it always seems to be when you're near the finish line. I don't really want to find out how my father died 18 months ago. Because this partner of mine, who's just a liar and a horrible, nasty person, who won't even listen to his own parents, and he's nearly 54. His own mum telling him, leave her alone. And I rang and left a voice message for his parents, who allegedly don't want to know. And I said about his good boy, I said about her good boy, he was sent to me, was he? I've just been, and while he's screaming and shouting at me, I'm leaving a voice message. I've just said my mother would be fuming angry, would be absolutely disgusted at what you've done. And as a response to that, he told me to get out. And yet in Eben's flat, without even having ever met my late mother, he never knew her, he said, your mother would be disgusted with you. I know why he couldn't get out of his flat. Because he's full of so much self-guilt at his own wickedness that he still screams and shouts at me, seeing my tears and hurt and then anger. And he doesn't listen to his own family when they say, this isn't a man of Yahweh. I don't ever want to hear about the Bible ever again. I don't want to hear about, I've walked into this hotel again, and I think he's banned from here. Because his dad came down here to take the stuff out of storage into his flat, all my stuff, all my bags, but doesn't know that I'm street homeless. And yet the police abusing powers community got involved in this. Tina Chave of the Independent Advice Network, a friend of Dan's from Police Abusing Powers YouTube channel. All the Eastbourne police thugs know about my YouTube channel. Do you know what I'm thinking of? Because the other day, When someone reported that YouTube video where I've got a bruise on me, and the same thug who beat me on Beachy Head, have a look at my Facebook wall and you'll see the bruises, as a response to me finding out my father's been dead for 18 months and I don't know what happened to him. As a response to that, he arrested my partner for leaving a bruise on me because someone reported my YouTube channel. They reported the video where I'm showing a bruise, and as a result, my partner was arrested. Did they offer me anything? Section 4 of the Domestic Abuse Act 2021, did they offer me a shelter? No, they didn't. They didn't last year when the National Domestic Abuse Helpline were concerned about me. The care coordinator who's been the care coordinator who got me into that flat that those very police thugs dragged me out of days after I had news of my father's death, when I reported an obscene phone call at SDR Living, which is a criminal offence. You are all digging graves for yourselves. I will find it very, very easy to jump off those cliffs. I've been on the phone today to a paralegal who is trying to get this council to do what they've been taking away from me. And if they don't do anything, they'll get a barrister involved. But you know what? I'm so close to the finish line. I don't want to go on anymore. I'm so broken. I'm so full of that much pain. I've had so much pain since I went into supported accommodation when my mother was dying of cancer and I was forced to sign a homeless application form. The address of that supported accommodation is on my mother's death certificate that I signed at the town hall, which back in April I was assaulted at because Councillor Joshua Burundi OBE told me to go down there. And this involves the Police Abusing Powers YouTube channel, because it was Warrior Wales who said he reported them in some live chat thing, Discord, whatever, where they were saying, I hope Bryony does suicide. Well, don't worry. It gets easier. It gets easier to do it. Because after my partner was arrested, actually, no, before, because he'd been screaming and shouting at me there and then, which is why I went down to A&E. This was a few weeks ago. This was before he was arrested over that video where he bruised me. He was screaming and shouting at me because I wouldn't sit where he wanted me to sit. I have to sit where he wants me to sit. I can't put sanitary products in the bin without him taking them from my hand. I can't make a cup of tea without him screaming and shouting, and this time trying to break off bits of glass and pretend to hurt himself. I don't care anymore. He's left me to sleep rough. You know what? Oh, he can block me on Facebook. Good. Means I won't get any of his pornography. But you know, I said to him earlier, it was a terrible thing for that person, whoever they were, to threaten to what was it? Slit your throat. Very frightening. But you wonder why I put this on YouTube. Because I'm feeling extremely suicidal. But when I went down to A&E before he was arrested because of that YouTube video, I spoke to the crisis team. They did nothing, and I was assaulted by public servants again. And Chantel from Matthew 25, thanks to her, she told me to wait outside, and she was trying to get the security guards to be nice and make me a hot drink. But no, they assaulted me. And she said, this is public property. They can't do that. But they did. So I went and got intoxicated. And because I'm alcohol intolerant, because I don't drink or smoke or take drugs, I went up to Beachy Head. And I started retching. Physically retching, as if I was going to be sick. But I walked back into Darren's flat after I went to the Way, the homeless charity, to have food with them. And I walked into Darren's flat, and as soon as I walked in the door, I was violently sick in his toilet. But was anyone supporting me? No, because I had just been assaulted once again by hospital public servants, security guards. And this has happened many, many times over, where I've been assaulted and injured. I was assaulted when Councillor Josh Babarundi, OBE of the Lib Dems, told me to go down to the council offices, and I was pushed and shoved out. I've got a bleeding nose because I tried to protect my partner. I've come that close to suing the Herald for libel. Oh, and by the way, Sussex Police, Eastbourne Police, also tried to contact my father in 2018 when I was reported missing there and then in the Herald and dragged back to the psychiatric unit. I know of people who've taken their lives. I know of someone who jumped off Beachy Head to their death. I reached out to the Police Abusing Powers channel for help. Dan and his minions, who, I don't care about your anonymous calls. I've got evidence of your crimes. Your crimes. My blood is on your hands. I've been emailing everyone, the General Medical Council, because I had already made my report to them, and then the care coordinator who got me in that flat worked for the Lighthouse practice, my GP practice, and she's been sacked. And I reported doctors, including my GP, before I was made homeless. And Juliet Rawson and Eben, Darren's friend, who's got my possessions, she should not have known where I lived, and neither should Darren. But she threatened to dispose of my possessions, and I told her, and I have evidence, that Darren was arrested in her flat. Because DC Kamar of Eastbourne CID, I have that recording. You've pushed a broken person constantly to suicide. I don't even want to know how my father died. I don't even want to know. I don't want to go on. I really don't. I don't want to carry this pain anymore. I don't want to keep coming back to this because it's all fake. It's all lies. You know what? Did you know narcissistic abuse is one of the biggest killers of women in the UK? Statistically, and it's up to 5 years in prison for coercive control. But did the police do anything? No. That grey-haired police officer with a beard, what did he do? Oh, well, if Darren cuts himself, put a bit of tissue on it. No, I won't even bother doing that. If I was one of the neighbours, I would be fuming angry, having to put up with that, listening to him screaming and shouting all the time, because he won't let his girlfriend make a cup of tea or put a sanitary product in the bin. His own mother, he said to me, his own mother said, leave her alone. But he hasn't. All night screaming and shouting at me. And apparently, a few years back, he said his family said he's antagonistic. Maybe they're too embarrassed to have anything to do with me, because his own dad said to me at the Saffron 7 years ago, before it was SDR Living, you know, the notorious Saffron, Survivors of the Saffron, the Facebook page, Survivors of the Saffron, where they ignored an online petition to the Trestle Trust saying, stop bullying the vulnerable and the disabled. Where I was bullied by the same staff there. His dad. Maybe that hug was probably the only genuine thing I'd had. Because he said to me, how do you feel about him being in a caring role for you? And I said, I never asked him to be in a caring role. I was just vulnerable and I was just going along with whatever was being thrown about. I expect to have a partner care about me and not leave me to sleep rough. Not to scream and shout at me and leave me to sleep rough. Do I really want to agree with the same police thugs who beat me? Because there are no real men anymore, let's face it. No real women. No, they died for our freedoms. My late grandmother lived through 2 world wars. My mother lived through 1 world war. But I was saying to Darren, you know, when they call you a C word and a knob. No. Darren Plant, the matron of Sussex Partnership, banned you from visiting me on the psychiatric ward because he said, you, my partner, Darren, became animated and I'm standing, and they're the ones who are also abusing me, and I'm speaking up for my partner to them. And this is how he treats me, screaming and shouting. I tell you what, I don't care anymore. I don't want to know. I don't know what My father contacted me to say Sussex police have contacted me. Is this attention seeking? And I hadn't seen him since my 12th birthday, and he has died not knowing what they have done to me. My own partner contacted my father saying that he had a problem with me. And he has the nerve to say, your mother, in Eben's flat last year, he said, what would Juliet think of you and what would your mother think of you? Well, Juliet's also lost a good friend in me because she's been going through domestic abuse. And on that note, I actually forwarded the email that I sent to the temporary accommodation team. I sent it to the paralegal saying that Juliet Rawson, who works for the local authorities as a support worker, has been going through cancer treatment. And I sent that before I was made homeless from SDR living. So I've spoken up for you as well, Juliet Rawson, if you are watching me. I've spoken up for you to everyone. You had a partner who called you a C word, who actually called you a C word, and you have friends. I can't believe that you, as someone who works for the authorities, would have friends who take drugs. But I still haven't finished making gifts for you. Thank you, gifts for you and Eben. You know what? I'm telling this paralegal that this is all too much for me. I have forwarded her your emails to the local government and social care ombudsman and the MP as evidence because you were my crucial witness. And I thought you were my friend because one time you said you described yourself as my friend, and Darren said you were my friend. But Eben has abused me. This is all too much for me. I've got possessions in several places. I'm coming very, very close to taking serious legal action. But you know what? I don't want to go on anymore. I really don't. I don't want this pain anymore. It's really not worth staying alive for one person's abuse, let alone hundreds of others who've done so much verbal, physical, and psychological damage that's so off the scale I will never recover. I had attempted rape after my mother died. That was the only time Eastbourne Police helped me. I'd never had dealings with the police before. Back in 2010, 2011, I single-handedly put this assailant 2 years in prison and 10 years on a sex offenders register, and I laughed it off. I could have been laughing my head off forever. But this is something else. This has destroyed me. And I'm putting it on YouTube. And you can get as angry as you like about it. Deal with your own guilt. Because I really, really have given up now. I can't take any more pain. That's it. This is the end of the line.